Okay, yesterday I made a video on how to take out a pipe plug that had the head stripped off of it. Now, uh, that was an oil galley plug, and usually there's oil behind them and they don't rot or they don't get, they're usually not hard to get out. Um, but there's other, if you've got a pipe plug and it won't come out, there's some guys use penetrant oil, some guys use I've heard of birthday candles or candle wax. Um, I've used a lot of it, and I've tried some of it. And for me, it's just faster a lot of times in the shop just to drill it out as big as I can and put an easy out in it and put a little heat to it. Regardless, you're going to probably end up putting some heat to it. Whether or not you want to put penetrant oil on it or beeswax, that's entirely up to you. I found in the past that sometimes beeswax or toilet bowl wax works quite well, and other times it just plain don't. Other times they're just so tight and they're so miserable that you got to heat them up. And I've had head studs on flatheads where I have to literally cut them flat, put them in the mill, and drill them out. So just going to go over a few things on a prep on the 350. This isn't everything. Although some of my videos I cover particular things, I'm going to kind of bounce around on this one. Okay, this is a 350 Chevrolet. We're prepping it to put it in a hot tank. Okay, my hot tank, I got to take anything out of there that's aluminum Babbitt material. So cam bearings, everything, it's got to be stripped. It's either aluminum or Babbitt. What I use to clean the deck surfaces is a wood chisel. That works the best for me. You can put it this way and scrub it. Sometimes it works better this way for some particular jobs if you want to. There's no rhyme or reason. Whatever works the best for you, just, you know, I've had better luck with this. It's stiffer. It's a little bit sharper than a putty knife. Although you can sharpen a putty knife, this seems to work pretty well. And, you know, I did a little bit of woodwork once in my life, and obviously it's like brand new. I don't do very much woodwork. So, I mean, if you don't hit it with a crash into it with a dowel or a bowl, this will stay relatively sharp. And it does a pretty good job. And I like to get most of the loose stuff off before I put it in my hot tank, because after you put 3-4 engines in your hot tank, you start getting all that stuff at the bottom, and it starts turning into mud and slush, and you just, if you can scrape it off before it goes in, that works the best. And try to avoid the dowels. Try not to bounce it off anything really hard, and it'll stay sharp for quite a while. If you have one of these and you don't do woodworking much, then you know you can use this. Obviously, if you're going to do woodworking, you probably don't want to use your wood chisel. Or if you borrow somebody's wood chisel and bring it back with dents in the chisel end of it, they'll probably be very unhappy with you. Okay, now on a small block Chevrolet, I always buff this boss back, and I usually buff it back almost right to this edge right here. Now, this one will probably clear. The earlier blocks usually clear a dual chain set. Some of them won't. So I just automatically do them all. There's nothing worse than putting an engine half together and finding out that this is rubbing on your chain, and now you got to deal with it when the engine's all together. So I deal with it right off the bat. I'm using this today because the air compressor is wired directly into the shop, and when it fires up, it's going to fire up. So I'm trying to keep the videos clear and clean. So we're going to knock this off and roll it. Okay, so that's pretty much ground clean. This is fairly thick in here. I know some guys don't prefer these soft plugs, which is a metal plug. They'll put a expansion plug, let's call it that, instead of a soft plug, but relatively it is a soft plug. Some guys will tap these. You got to be very careful. There's some oiling in here. The tap, usually you get about 3 good taps in there with a 1/4 inch pipe plug. And you know, if they haven't been rebuilt a bunch of times and this isn't all messed up, I usually just put the plugs back in with a little green 638 Loctite and restake them. That's just me. So you want to catch them stake marks before you knock the plugs out. Obviously, you got to deburr them before you put the new plugs in, or you'll put marks in the plugs. I've never had one of them plugs blow out. You know, if you wanna use a pipe plug and use a 1/4 pipe plug in there, that's fine. Just make sure that you got enough threads to hold it in there, and make sure that when you put the plug in that you're not blocking any oil passages. There's really not a heck of a lot of plug passages up there that you got to be concerned about plugging, but you should be aware of anytime you put a pipe plug in any engine that you make sure that you're not blocking off or denying any oil passages. Okay, this is an MX wheel. These are hard to find. You may find them. Trade name on these is called Crate X2. There's a company that sells them that's called Crate X, but these are just a no-name brand. I don't know who made them at one time. Could have been Norton, could have been anybody, but this is 80 grit. Okay, so that's all buffed back, and that's relatively polished, and there's no sharp edges on it, so we'll call that good. So I'm going to take these stake marks here that when I knock these plugs out, there's going to be little high spots. And I'm just going to take them off a little bit right now, but probably when I put the plugs in, I'll make sure that there's no high spots in there. Now, if I do that, I'll turn the air compressor on, then you won't be able to hear anything. We'll do that after it comes back out of the tank. Okay, so I got this taken care of. I got my gasket surface scraped off. I knocked my cam bearings out. Everybody's got their own way of doing all this stuff. And this is just my way of doing it. Not saying it's the best way. Not saying I'm giving you all the information you need to know at this particular point in time. I'm just covering some of the basic information. Somebody wants to get more in depth with videos, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. I'm just doing this for the heck of it. But if you have a snap-on type cam bearing tool like this type here, what I do is I round all the sharp edges off of these. So when you drive the cam bearing out, you don't tear up the housing. Now, I run this as loose as I can and still have it drive the bearing out. You don't need this cranked up really tight. If you crank it up really tight, there's a real good chance that this might catch on the edges when the cam bearing's coming out. So you want to be aware of that. And like I buffed all my edges back so I won't tear up the cam housings. And I see a lot of blocks that I get that have been rebuilt that the cam tunnels are just basically murdered after 3-4 times. Some guys just don't care. You know, getting all them high spots out of them cam tunnels can be a real problem at the point of, you know, where it almost has to be lined, honed or bored. So I talked about using beeswax, candle wax, or toilet bowl wax. We call this beeswax. A guy even at the hardware calls this beeswax. It's a toilet bowl seal. And this cost me like less than $3. It says it's got styrene in it, and you know, in California it causes cancer, you know. What can I say about that? You know, me in California probably causes cancer. You know, everything you touch nowadays, everything's bad for you. I don't particularly like using beeswax or any oils or much of anything if I don't have to. And the reason by that is that I'm in the shop all day. Whatever I put up in the air eventually is going to come down, and I'm breathing it. And I've did this for a long time, and I've been lucky so far that I know of that I don't have anything that's killing me right now as far as carcinogenics. But you know, you start heating up this stuff and you start burning this stuff, it starts coming back down in the air. I just as soon heat them up and not use nothing. But if I have to use beeswax on them, I will. In the summer it ain't too bad, you can open the door, but now it's getting colder and the heat's on, and I really don't like leaving the door open if I don't have to. So we're going to try to take these out. There's a couple ways you can think about this. You think about it as, you know, if you're heating them up and you're hitting them, you're loosening them up. The material's going to expand, the plug's going to expand as well. But usually the block will expand a little quicker sometimes if you concentrate on heating the actual block up and not the actual plug. Some of my easy outs are old and they've been ground on a few times, but I had one that you flip them around like that. When you flip it around, and it ends up being a pretty good fit on square drives. These are factory type plugs. Usually if you go to a Dorman or Pioneer aftermarket freeze plug kit or a soft plug kit, you'll find that they're all mostly like a socket head Allen. They have a hex on them, so these sometimes are hard to find. I've also used tool steel in here. I have an old lathe, so I do use tool steel. And okay, it ain't gonna come out. So without rounding the head off of it, and I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Normally what I do is I drill a hole through all these, all the way straight through. You want to drill a hole anytime you use an easy out. If you have the luxury of running the drill all the way through anything, bolt, plug, I don't care, anything, you want to drill it all the way through. There's a couple of reasons for that, but I won't get into all of the reasons. But it just, if you break something off, if you might have a better chance you can knock some of it back out the other way. That's one reason. I've always found with bolts that if I drill them all the way through and I'm into like the head, where I can tell that I've already gone through the bolt, that it leaves a little well there. And if you want to put well in something in the well, like oil or beeswax, you know, or penetrant oil, you can heat it up and you can let it go in there so it'll soak it and it'll help get it out. Okay. Like I said, normally I would drill these all the way through and I just pound my easy out in there and I just crank them on out. But I'm going to heat it up and we're going to try beeswax. And we're going to do that because, you know, some guys still do this, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it actually takes more time because you're heating it up and then you're waiting for it to cool off a little bit to put the wax on it, and then you round the head off of it or the drive off of it, and then you find out that you're going to be drilling a hole through it anyway. So that's my take on it, but like I said, this is a demonstration for purposes only. You don't want to get the head hot. You just want to get the casting warm, and you don't want it so hot that it's turning red. Just when it starts to smoke out a little bit, start burning the crap off of it. Okay, what I'm going to do with them, I'm going to put my gloves on, but I'm going to give them a wrap. Sometimes that's all it needs. Sometimes it just needs a little wrap. You break the bond of the rust or whatever sealant they used on these. These are going into oil galleys. They definitely have some sort of sealant on them, I would believe. So we're going to let that wick in there. You know, somebody might say, well, you didn't get it hot enough to make the beeswax work. Well, you know, I can tell you that I'm going to put this beeswax on here, and I may heat it up one more time and try it again, but I'm going to tell you, if it don't break it loose right now, I'm going to just head out for the drill and put an easy out on them and be done with them, because like I said, I've used this in the past, and somebody brought it up on the internet yesterday, and a lot of people like it. It works for them, you know. And like I said, I've had luck with it both ways. I've had luck with it, and I've had no luck with it at all. Okay, so I got it loose, but you know, honestly, did that beeswax help? I don't know. I think beating the easy out in the head of it to grab it probably frees it up as much as the beeswax may have. But it's a tool to use, just like penetrating oil, just like anything else. Everything's a judgment call, and what you decide to use and what you like to, after you've done it for a while, and you decide, you know, you get into a rhythm, you get into a set way of doing things. See, now that one didn't want to come out. You're gonna revert to what worked for you in the past, and like I said, on some of these, like, we're not even going to try that one. The side of it's already broke out, so we're going to drill that one out and knock it out with an easy out. We'll try that one. Okay, I can pretty much tell you that I don't think I might have not gave the beeswax enough chance to try it to make it successfully work, but you can see And what I do is give them a wrap on the side that hand roll, and it knocks them right off. So we got this one out. Okay, so this one we're going to have to drill. I had all my stuff out for my easy outs yesterday. I don't have it out today. Drill all set. So like I've said, you know, this is the way I do it. I've gotten used to my procedures and the way I do it. For somebody that's just learning, and basically these videos are not for people that are doing this for a living. If somebody wants to watch a video, that's fine. I'm just glossing over some of the stuff that may help somebody that's in a beginner in this. Okay, that's all the way through. And I think I cleaned yesterday on an easy out. Because that's a small hole, you can go much bigger, and we are going to go much bigger. When you put a easy out in, you don't ever want to use just the tip. You want to catch it down by the root of it. The thicker it is here, the stronger it is. Absolutely true. If you pound it in here and you rip that off, and I've had a lot of guys do that, and they bring it over and want me to take it out. It's not much fun. So if you're going to do an easy out, I prefer these. You want to drive it in as far as you can to about halfway where it's the thickest, with a little bit of taper still, and that works the best. For me, it works the best. I got to be careful because I'll have a bunch of people telling me that I'm wrong. And I guess it don't matter because I do this every day, so if I'm wrong, I'm happy doing it wrong. Okay, now the thing is you always want to make sure you're on the center of anything you're trying to take out. It works so much better. Spend your time. If the bolt is broke off or it ain't flush, go through the trouble of grinding it and making it flat, and then striking it with a center punch. Having an easy out or a tap or anything else that's broke off center on a bolt that's half in an engine or in a head, and then bringing it over and having me fix it, I can usually do it, but you know, them aren't the type of jobs that really I like to see a lot of. If I could avoid it, I do, you know. And it comes right out like butter. So this is how I like to do it. Okay, this is how some people like to do it. There's always a good idea to have more than one way of doing things. So that's what this video is about, basically. I'm not saying that the wax don't work, and I'm not saying that this is better. I'm just saying there's different ways of doing it. I prefer just boring them out and just driving them in. I don't play around with these because I throw these out. They have no value to me. They're dirty, they're rusty, they're old. Unless it's something of a rare block, these are a dime a dozen, and time is worth more than trying to save a pipe plug. So that's it.